Good evening, everybody. I've decided to do a bit of a Booker prediction video, which was something I wasn't intending on doing. I am rubbish at predicting things and have zero qualifications for this, and I hate it when I'm just trying to pluck books out of the air because there isn't kind of a definitive eligibility list that I can kind of go down and go yes, no to. This is a bit of a weird ensemble. Books that have had a lot of hype, books that I've been like, whoa, that blurb sounds interesting, books that I've looked at the blurb and been like, that is a Booker choice, books that probably have no chance of getting on the list but that I like anyway. It's so hard to do a prediction video because you end up wanting to put books that you like or that you like the look of on the list, and it's so hard to kind of dissociate from what you want to happen and just kind of go with your gut of what seems bookerish. Like, if I stick a bunch of books that sound really quite dull to me on the list, I just end up wanting to poke all the weird stuff that I read onto the list. So I've tried to kind of get a bit of a mix, but I think I've come up with a list. I think I'm there. I'm probably going to change my mind on some of these halfway through filming. Let's just see how we go. Like I say, the things that I've had to go off because we don't have a definitive list of these are the books that are eligible this year. These are, the ones that potentially meet the criteria. And of course, the judges are allowed to pull books from anywhere. So, if there's a book that's eligible that they think should be on the list, regardless of whether the publishers have put it forward, they can say, look, this is going on our long list. I'm just going to go through it. Like I say, I've been researching this. When I say researching, that's a very loose term. So I'm going to start with one that I think is definitely going to be on there, and this is definitely going to be on there because the author is known to be a very poetic writer, very popular, and has had a lot of hype. So I'm going to go for my definitely going to be on there, The Emperor of Gladness by Ocean Vuong. Now, I haven't read anything by Vuong, but I understand that their debut novel, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, has been very well received. Everybody I know who's read it has said how lovely it is, and their poetic prose has kind of been hyped up across the board. And we know that the Booker are suckers for beautiful writing. So the actual premise of this book, my understanding, is that it's set in Connecticut, and it is about a young man called Hai, who is about to jump into a river, about to kind of end their life, and is kind of called out to by an older lady across the river who, they then kind of make friends. He becomes her caregiver, and it's about kind of their lives and friendship and the relationship between them and second chances at life, basically. So it sounds extremely life-affirming and heartwarming. I haven't read it. I haven't read any of these books. I've got zero authority on any of these books. The cover doesn't immediately appeal to me because it's very similar to a lot of other very, very popular books, and I'm a determined hipster who tends to like things that haven't been hyped up too much. It took me ages to watch films like Juno and Slumdog Millionaire just because I'm awkward. Good films. This book has been everywhere on Booker shortlist, long list prediction videos and lists, so I think everyone's probably right on that one. I think that's probably going to be on there, and it sounds, from what I've heard about the writing, it sounds like rightly so. Number 2. Now, this one is a little bit less obvious, and the reason why this one is on my list is because it has been so thoroughly recommended. So the people I know who have read this book, and I say people I know, people I've watched on YouTube, people I've come across on Goodreads, they are people whose opinions I respect, and they have been like, you need to read this book in a very urgent way. So I'm assuming this is going to be good. And good quality books with a bit of an experimental quality to them are also going to be possibles for the Booker long list. So this book is called We Pretty Pieces of Flesh by Colwell Brown. Now, from what I've from the vibe I'm getting from reviews is this is a little bit like a kind of 90s Yorkshire coming of age train spotting, but set with teenage girls. So it's 3 teenage girls. It's written in a kind of, what's the word, kind of a colloquial, kind of almost like written in dialect in the way that train spotting is. And I don't really know much about it. It's about kind of how they are as people and growing up and things like that. So I'm guessing it's more of a character piece. But it's been so acclaimed, and I'm not going to say critically acclaimed because I haven't actually read what the critics are saying, but certainly the people who I've been in contact with who've read this book have said it is amazing and everybody needs to read it. And when you're getting that kind of recommendation with that level of urgency, it does really boost it up my list. The reason why I probably wouldn't have necessarily chosen this one on my own, I absolutely hate the word flesh. Like, the word flesh is just horrible. And yeah, there's another book that's been on a lot of people's Booker radars, which is Flesh by David Chalet. And yeah, this book has been on a lot of people's kind of Booker wish lists, Booker want lists, and Booker prediction lists. There's a lot of hype around that one. It's not on my list, but yeah, we might have 2 flesh choices. I hate the word flesh. It's horrible. Always hated that word. I like an experimental novel, and from what it sounds like, this has been quite emotionally affecting for some people. So yeah, that is my second book on the list. Number 3, again, this is a hype pick that has, and I think this is probably going to be definitely on there as well. Having said that, they do like to mess with us and just put random stuff on these lists. So nothing is certain. But a book that for a start, that's been getting a lot of buzz, but also I've read the blurb and I'm like, this sounds fascinating and I need to read it. It's a book called Endling by Maria Reva. This book is set in Ukraine in 2022, and it follows various women who are on the dating scene, perhaps not for the purpose of finding love. And one of them, called Yeva, she is a biologist living in a remote location and trying to breed snails. And her kind of purpose of dating is to try and fund her research. And then there's a couple of sisters as well who are trying to find out, I think, what happened to their missing mother on the dating scene. I'm not entirely sure how that fits together, but it sounds intriguing. Basically, they've got their own reasons for doing this, and the blurb had me at a truck full of kidnapped bachelors, because I want to know how this got to this stage. But obviously it's against the background of the war and on the background of the Russian invasion. So there's also going to be, obviously some commentary there, and a lot of their plans are apparently put on hold against that background. And I don't know how much that interweaves. Obviously it's going to have an enormous impact on anything that's happening in a book set in Ukraine. But like I say, there's lots of different elements of the story, and like I say, the fact that there's been buzz around this book strongly suggests to me that it's going to be a contender, and it's one that I will definitely be purchasing and having a look at. So that's number 3. So for number 4, I've gone for The Catch by Ursa Daly Ward. I can't read my own handwriting. And this is a book set in London, and this one got me on the blurb. Well, it got me on the cover first. I think it's the UK cover that is quite attractive. It's about 2 twin sisters who are both grieving the loss of their mother, who apparently disappeared into the Thames. And Clara, who is one of the sisters, sees a woman on the streets of London who looks exactly like her mother, but unchanged, hasn't progressed in age, hasn't had children. And this woman's apparently called Serene, and she becomes convinced that this woman is her mother. And her twin sister, who she's been estranged from, Dempsey, is obviously isn't kind of buying that at all, and believes she's a con woman who I suspect is taking advantage of the situation. And apparently the 2 sisters, and this is a quote from the blurb, hurtle towards an altercation that threatens their existence. I have no idea what that means. And it's blurbed as a kaleidoscopic multiverse of daughterhood and mother want. And it just sounds delightfully meta and intriguing. And I think there's a lot of commentary on kind of race and motherhood, daughterhood, all of that as well packed in there. So it just sounds like a fascinating premise. I'm assuming there's going to be a little bit of kind of, because obviously with the kind of metaverse, multiverse, you know, is there a possibility that this woman is kind of another version of their mother? I'm not sure whether that's going to go in any kind of magical realism direction or whether it's all going to be set, you know, it's all going to be very grounded. I'm not really sure. But first of all, like I say, the cover caught my eye, and then the blurb really kind of made me intrigued. So I think something like this could be on the list. So I know it's not necessarily a kind of front runner that everyone's kind of predicting, but I'm intrigued and I've put that on my possibles. Number 5, another one that, again, I was drawn in by the cover and then the blurb, and that's Great Black Hope by Rob Franklin. This is a debut novel by a US author, and it's set in various locations across the States. It's about a young man called Smith who is arrested for cocaine possession in the Hamptons, and he's kind of part of the elite. He's got a lot of other stuff going on. His roommate Elle recently died and the tabloids have been having a field day with it. He's trying to find out what happened to her. Obviously there's all this kind of litigation and stuff going on. He's being dragged into the court system. There is a lot going on for this young man, and he starts spiraling. And from the blurb, like I say, it sounds like there's lots going on here, because he runs away to Atlanta where he grew up and then back again to New York City when his friend had a breakdown. And, you know, there's just a lot going on, and it sounds like it goes from like the nightlife in New York to the kind of court system to, kind of high society drama, coming of age, group of friends story. It sounds like there is a lot packed into this book. And yeah, so I was intrigued, like I say, both by the gorgeous cover and by the blurb. And, you know, so this is a debut author. This one could be sneaking into the list, could be an option. Let's see if I'm right. Number 6, this one is one that's got a lot of hype. I see this book everywhere. This cover, I think it's been nominated for kind of Waterstone's debut novel award. I don't know, maybe it's just got a very, very catchy cover, because I see it and I'm like, for some reason it sticks in my mind. And I read the blurb and it does sound very Bookerish. So, and I think it has been predicted by a couple of people too. So this book is Sarasvati by Gurnik Jahal, and this is a debut set in northern India. It's about a character called Satnam who goes back to his kind of ancestral village for his grandma's funeral. And while he's there, he notices water welling up from a dry well in her back garden. Now, apparently it's the area used to have a river called the Sarasvati flowing through it. So this book is, and again, I wasn't entirely sure how all this fits together from the blurb, because it's quite, like I say, it sounds quite complex. But essentially, he goes on a mission to unearth the lost river and to try and build a city on its banks. Not everyone is happy with the plan, apparently. In the process, apparently there are ties to kind of different relatives across the globe, and I'm not sure how they're connected. I'm not sure how they get involved with this kind of dig, as it were, but apparently it spans from an archaeologist in Kenya and a Bollywood stunt double, so it sounds like this is quite a wide spanning novel that involves a lot of different interlinked stories. So I'll be really intrigued to read this book, and it does sound like something that would be very intriguing to a booker panel. So yeah, I think that one will be up there as well, potentially. Next, again, another obvious one. I've gone for Glyph by Ali Smith, and this sounds like a highly political novel from what I've read. It's set in a kind of dystopian near future that's kind of semi-recognisable. And those are the scariest dystopian novels. I mean, if you've read something like The Circle by Dave Eggers, that book absolutely terrified me and got under my skin because the world is so recognisable. And I would describe that book as a social horror rather than a dystopia necessarily, because it's so plausible and it's so it's just slightly extrapolated into the future. If things aren't reined in, if politics continue to go in a certain direction, are we going to end up in a more totalitarian society? It's what we've been frightened of. It's what dystopian fiction for many, many, many decades has been trying to forewarn us of, the dangers of totalitarianism and living in societies that are hostile to certain groups of people and as a threat to our freedoms. Glyph by Ali Smith is set in an extrapolated near future where there are people called unverifiables, and apparently there's a number of different reasons why you might be unverifiable, whether it's kind of your family's political opinions or your background. And it's about a pair of siblings, Bry and their sister Rose, and apparently there's a horse. I'm not sure how the horse comes into it. Apparently Glyph is the horse. I'm not sure whether the horse is relevant. In this kind of overly capitalist kind of society, if you're not kind of playing ball with the system, then you're in trouble. And the people who are unverifiable, basically they paint lines on their houses in red, ready to kind of bulldoze them. So it sounds absolutely horrific. But just from that description, I really want to pick it up. I've read a lot of Ali Smith's writing before, and I find her a brilliant writer. Very, very good at evoking a mood, very good at dialogue, very good at kind of capturing little nuggets of social commentary. I do find that her books kind of lack a kind of arc to make it a satisfying book. So I love her writing, but I've not found a book that I could say, yes, you need to read this. This is a full work, beginning, middle, end. And it doesn't need a beginning, middle, and an end, but it has to have some kind of cohesive structure that makes it feel like it was satisfying. And I haven't found that yet. So I'm going to finish her seasonal quartet. Like I say, some fantastic writing there. I just, I do think that's probably going to make the list. Even though that's a nice obvious one. Number 8, again, probably quite obvious. one that's very kind of, I think Madeleine Tien has been Booker nominated before, with Do Not Say We Have Nothing, I think was her debut. Anyway, The Book of Records. This sounds like a very strange, dreamlike book, and probably right up my street. So kind of literary, time-bending sort of, but also some philosophical and political overtones as well. So it's about 2 migrants. I'm not entirely sure what they're running from, but I believe there's kind of some kind of drama or disaster that they're trying to escape. Main character called Lena and her father, and they arrive at this place called the Sea, and the sea is like a meeting point for migrants that's between times. So the past, the future, they're nearby, and their neighbours wouldn't necessarily be there in kind of space and time, as it were. It's all kind of, it sounds quite not supernatural, what's the word? Yeah, so not grounded in kind of realism, basically. They basically make friends with the neighbours and they tell their stories, and Lena is trying to come to terms with some of the things that her father has done and the part he played in the kind of family, the kind of tragic history of their family. All sounds incredibly literary and philosophical. It sounds like there's lots of complex, big, deep ideas being explored here. Doesn't sound like it's going to be an easy read. And from the reviews, it looks like that, there is quite a lot of heavy philosophy contained within the pages, but that's usually something that the Booker Prize likes rather than dislikes. So I think this one's going to be up there. And the American cover, I think it's the American cover, the one with the waves on the front, is absolutely gorgeous. And I love novels that experiment with kind of time and place and that aren't necessarily rooted in the real world, and that have something to say in a way that isn't necessarily just a straightforward story. So I think this sounds like it's going to be a very interesting read, and it's definitely been put on my radar put on my radar ever since I started reading and researching the prize. I wish there were more slots. Number 9. People say that this might not get on there just because the author has been announced as a judge for next year's International Booker. I don't really know whether that's a conflict of interest or not, because it obviously is a completely separate prize, and I don't know. I don't know, but the blurb, I can't not have this book on the list with the blurb, because I read the blurb and I was like, I have to read that. Universality by Natasha Brown. And Natasha Brown, I think this is her second book. I think the first one was called The Assembly or Assembly. I think I've got that on my Kindle. Haven't read it yet, but this book is getting a lot of buzz, a lot of hype, and a lot of mixed reviews actually. And I love that. I love it when a book's controversial. I love it when it's not a straightforward, everybody loves it. I like it. That's more likely to make me read it if there's some strong opinions either side. So this is the premise is someone gets bludgeoned to death by a gold bar at an illegal rave in Yorkshire. The book's set in Yorkshire. They're clubbed to death with a gold bar, and a journalist goes about a viral expose trying to find out what happened, trying to, you know, kind of uncover the truth, and they do their expose, and then the story apparently moves on to various different characters and how they've been affected, what their perspective is, and I think the truth gets kind of bent a little bit in terms of, you know, so it kind of gets more confusing as to what actually happened. And to me, I'm intrigued by that, just because surely if someone decks someone over the head with a gold bar and kills them, then if the mystery's been solved, like, there's not really many ways that can be, like, you know, that's something very definite and that's an event that's definitely happened right there. Yeah, I'm not sure how that could be ambiguous, but apparently this story does kind of unravel and show various ambiguities and explore all the people kind of involved in the event, from the owner of the gold bar to, you know, to the I think, yeah, to people who know the person accused. So yeah, this sounds like a very interesting book. The only thing that would make me think maybe it will be not necessarily Booker material is that it's popular. And sometimes when books are a little bit too popular, a little bit too, you know, it comes across as being commercial rather than, you know what I mean? Like, there are some absolutely fantastic books that explore social issues, but because they're quite commercial and they're kind of marketed to the masses, sometimes that's not necessarily appealing if you want something a bit more esoteric. And you know, like, I don't think, like, personally, I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. I like a book to be accessible, I like it to be readable, and if it speaks of the big issues but is also readable on a wider level and has mass market appeal, I think that's a good thing. But yeah, basically the cover's a little bit too cool. The cover's a little bit too cool. I haven't read the book, I don't know what the prose is like, so I'm going off concept rather than anything else. This one, I don't know why I've got this one on the list, because I think it's just vibes. I just get a vibe from this one. I read the blurb and I was like, this is Booker vibes, and I can't explain what I mean by that. The cover, Booker vibes. The blurb, Booker vibes. I don't know why. So this one is here for vibes and vibes alone. This is The City Changes Its Face by Imre McBride, which is set in Camden in the 90s, and it's about, basically it's a couple with a big age gap reminiscing back on their 2-year relationship and wondering what went wrong. So we've got a 20-year-old young lady and a 40-year-old man. They've been in a relationship and they are kind of reminiscing back over what was it that caused our relationship to break apart. And, you know, it's like where there's a will, fate sometimes intervenes and they won't necessarily end up together. So yeah, I mean, like I say, I just have an instinct. It's an inkling, a spidey sense. Do I want to read it? I would read it. This is a book that I would read, but I probably wouldn't necessarily prioritise unless it got more kind of critical recognition, or someone I knew told me that it was brilliant, or, you know, I had it just wafting in front of my face at the right moment, because I'm such a mood reader. Sometimes if I just see a book and I'm like, oh, I really fancy starting that, and then I'll have started a book and I'll be like, oh, I meant to start that other book, but now I'm reading this one and this other 12 books. So yeah, very much a mood readery type thing. Number 11. So you see, I did have something for 11. And then I hovered between, I was like, oh, actually, there are other books that I think might be more likely to get on the list than this. So I'm stuck. I have 2 options for my number 11. And don't ask why it's not my number 12. I've got these in an order, and the order is there. So my initial book that was in 11th place, and I'm hoping to have decided by the end of the video which one of these I'm putting on my maybes list. So one of them was The Lamb by Lucy Rose, and this is a debut folk horror novel that was very highly kind of hyped up, particularly by Waterstones in the UK, and it's about a mother and a daughter living in a forest in a remote location, inviting strangers into their house, giving them something to eat and drink, and then I think eating them. I mean, it says picking over their bodies, but there has been the word cannibal dropped into several reviews, so I'm guessing there's going to be some. I'm guessing this is another book about people eating people. There's quite a lot of those out about at the moment. So it's apparently quite bloody. So yeah, this one, is it too weird? Is it too English? I don't know. Is this popular over in the US? Because obviously the Booker Prize encompasses the entire of the English-speaking world. Anyone who writes a book in English can be considered for it. So, I don't know. It's definitely a book that I'm excited for and that I'd like to read. I do love a bit of folk horror. Not so keen on the old eating people sitch, but this was a maybe. And then the other one I considered, and again, this is not appearing on people's lists. So this is a book that's not kind of, I'm not seeing it a lot. I'm not seeing it on a lot of radars. But the reason why this is on my list is because everyone I know who's read it has loved it. Like, a friend's read it, loved it, recommended it to another friend, they've loved it. And the cover's kind of eerie and I like it. The other thing that I had in possible 11th place was Sleep by Honor Jones. And this book is about someone who's kind of hiding. So as a child and as an adult, they are hiding, playing hide and seek, I think in the same place. And I think there's like a gap between time where they're hiding, and it's about kind of the circular nature of childhood and adulthood. I might have got this one completely wrong. I've been told it's really, 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 really good. So that was my other one that I thought maybe. No, you know what? I've decided I'm going to change it completely. I'm going to change it completely because I think both of those are possibilities, but my instinct is saying they won't be on the list. So I'm going to go for something different, a completely different book. And this one is one that, again, I've heard good things about. Number 11 on my list is going to be Deviants by Santanu Bhattacharya. This is another novel set in India. I think it's a debut, but I'm not sure. And it's a multi-generational novel about what it's like growing up gay in India. So we've got a main character whose family are very supportive of his sexuality, but they don't necessarily know everything that he gets up to. And then I think it's his uncle and then his uncle's uncle as well, and how over the generations they've had completely different experiences of being gay, of having that same-sex attraction, and you know, how they're basically treated by society as a result. So this book, again, it's had a little bit of hype, but not a lot. But yeah, I'm going to go with that one. Or am I? Oh my goodness. Right, so basically 11 is my slot if I don't know which one I'm going to put on the list. There's so many different options, and this is why prediction videos are something that I just shouldn't do, because I'm indecisive, and by the end I'll have listed off about like 30 books, and then when the long list is announced, I'll be like, see, I knew it was going to be that. And it's like, Ray, you basically predicted every single book that's come out this year. You can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. Number 12, this was a cover purchase for me. This cover is gorgeous and Hopper-esque, and yeah, we've talked about this before. I like anything that's kind of like a nocturne with a lit up window drawing you in. That's basically like nectar or syrup, or I'm like a bzzz. Like that sort of book. I need it. I need that kind of art. I'm such a fan. Anyway, this book was put onto my radar by somebody else predicting it on the Booker Longlist. I'm going to give a shout out to Ben Reads Good. So I mean, his videos were great, and he's done two. He's done a video for his predictions, but he's also done a video for his the ones that he wants to kind of get on the list and his kind of wish list, and they're both brilliant videos, so absolutely check those out. But this one was put onto my radar by his video, which I loved. And this is called The Imagined Life by Andrew Porter. It's an American author, I believe, and it's about a man called Stephen who, after his wife and son leave him, goes off trying to explore what happened to his father when he disappeared back in 1984. So I think this is the third book, at least, that I've put on my list about disappearing parents. So there's a bit of a theme there. A lot of disappearing parents this year. I often find kind of weird kind of synergy in these lists, like there's several books called Flesh, and there's several books with, you know, so often that kind of stuff does happen. I mean, last year everybody on the shortlist was called Paul. I know that was the year before. There was a year where everybody was called Paul. So you do find kind of weird synergy and groupings and things like that. It has a nice resonance to it. Anyway, I just basically the cover is gorgeous. It's on the list because the cover's gorgeous. I hope the book's good too. But whew, pretty. And yeah, if you've got a book with a cover this pretty, can't be terrible. That's like the rules. Anyway, and finally, getting the hair back. So, like, I am hoping, and this is gonna sound very strange. So, Sarah Jessica Parker is on the panel, and she likes a wide range of different books. Like, she's had things like Ali Hazelwood in her book club. You know, she likes everything from like the kind of mass market romance to literary fiction, likes a bit of everything. So I am hoping, and this is my bonus pick, this is my number 13, because they do sometimes have 13. This is my it's never going to happen but I want it to happen. My wish list, my kind of come on, let's do it. I want Sarah Jessica Parker to be like, right, let's have Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, because this book has far like, it's just not Booker kind of, nobody would expect it, nobody would be expecting it, but literally everybody I talk to who's read this book is amazed by it. Like my friend Becky did a wonderful review for Farmington Community Library where she works, and she absolutely sold this book to me. I mean, I already had it. Did I already have it? I don't know. I've got it. And this book is about, I think it's primarily a love story between two female astronauts back in the 80s. And it starts off, there's like an impending kind of, it kind of goes backwards and forwards in time, and there's kind of potential disaster. What's going to happen? There's tension, there's thrills. This is exactly why I don't think it's going to be on the long list, because tension and thrills isn't exactly what the Booker goes for. It doesn't really celebrate genre fiction. It doesn't really celebrate, you know, I mean, most literary fiction is non-genre. You can get literary genre fiction as well, but, you know, that's a whole new debate, what classes as literary fiction and what doesn't. But I just have a feeling this book is going to be amazing. And if we're searching for the best book that came out within this time period, I have read Taylor Jenkins Reid's work. It is perfectly nicely written, and yeah, do it. Come on, Sarah Jessica Parker, let's get some popular fiction on the list. I know you have it in you. Let's yeah, so that would be my little bonus, but we're only counting the first 12 as predictions, although, you know, come on, let's get Amazon on the list. What shall I put? What shall I put for 11? Oh, you know what, I've got until Tuesday to decide. Oh, what do you think? Which one shall I have in my last slot? Also, which ones have I got any of these completely wrong? Have I put some stuff on the list that's not eligible? Probably. This isn't really a concerted effort. I did have, like I say, I've got an absolute ton of writing. I've actually got a list on here of it says hardbacks that I personally can't wait for that came out in this time period. But again, the book is not really about kind of, you know, if you've written kind of a typical murder mystery, that's not really kind of the thing that they usually go for. I'm looking forward to the long list being announced, and it being 12 books I've never heard of, because that's usually what happens. Like, you can research these things, but like, you're never going to get like all of them right, or even maybe, I mean, how many do you think I've got? Full house? 12 out of 12? They should put me in charge. They should make me a judge. Zero skills, but I've got the enthusiasm. Anyway, guys, if you've got any lists that you want to like link me to, then absolutely do, because I love sharing this kind of thing. I love sharing this kind of content, and I will try, if I can manage to make a video after work, I will try and report on the actual long list next Tuesday. It's been a pleasure to spend time with you today. Take care, everybody, and goodbye.